All right. So this is I guess week 5. Week 4. Yeah, I think we're week 4, chapter 5 though of the book club for Ruby newbies. I'm doing practical object-oriented design, and I'm going to briefly go through the let me get it content only. Briefly go
The
over
duck
chapter.
typing and all.
Yeah. Sorry, Colby. Did you do you have this book or did you read it?
I've read through most of it, but it's good for me to review it because I read it pretty quick and I was still learning at the time, so this
Yeah.
is good review for me to make sure I understand the concept.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think me and Jeff are in the same boat. We've read it a couple times, I believe, and
Uh-huh.
it's definitely a good book to
Yeah.
review because even this
Yeah, I've
chapter
heard it
can.
recommended so many times, so
Yeah.
that's why I was like, I have to get this.
Yep. So yeah, this is talking about reducing costs with duck typing. Yeah, that is what we were talking about, and I understood the concept, and I've gone through the book so many times, and then when she went over this example right here, as far as duck typing, so this is like being able, the whole overall overlying idea for, I guess, to set up a basis is to create code that's going to be able to, that's going to be future proof. So if there's a change that happens in the code, stuff doesn't break, tests don't fail, and all that other bad stuff that should happen. So when I saw this code and she said, look at this example, I was like, oh, this example is fine. They're not calling a mechanic object. They're actually just passing it in. They're preparing the trip. And then at the end of this blurb, after she explains the paragraph, she then goes to say that it's a bad example. So I was kind of thrown off at it because I thought it was a good example. Um, but it's
Sneaky.
basically calling the mechanic object kind of relies that every time a trip is created, that a mechanic has to prepare bicycles no matter what. And I guess something that would be a little more flexible, seeing how I'll just skip down to her next example to kind of just jump through this. Um, Instead of having a mechanical always prepare bicycles for a trip, there's going to be other things that are going to have to be, other classes that are going to have to prepare, that are going to be involved in preparing a trip. So instead of having mechanic passing in the mechanic object, she recommends passing in the object preparers. So it's a generic object. There will be no a preparer could be like a mechanic or a trip preparer or a guide or whatever, what have you. So she's got this new class, trip coordinator, that's able to prepare a trip. The driver is able to prepare a trip, and instead of using the method prepare bicycle, she's actually passing in the same method called prepare trip that takes in one argument. So that way, at the time, and this is her final example, you're able just to prepare the trip and pass in preparers. And for each preparer, you can just prepare a trip rather than prepare bicycles and prepare, the drive. And I think she even had it, yeah. So before, when she started talking about other objects, she started using a case statement. And once you start using case statements, it's usually a red flag that you can probably do something different. I've had to use case statements and had to do case statements for certain reasons, like things as far as at my last job, there's a lot of money transactions. And with us being a publicly traded company, we had to be very explicit about stuff we did with money. So in those cases, we had to use case statements. So when certain things happened, certain things had to happen that way. And it made it hard to abstract anything to do with money, but obviously this is just preparing a trip. So she said to go ahead and avoid using the case statement and rather just iterate over the preparers that you pass in, which more than likely will be an array that you pass in. And that way you can just start preparing the trip. And each prepare trip method is different and can be called that easily.
Yeah, this reminds me when I used to program Flash games uh, in ActionScript, and we just used interfaces. And it
Okay.
was kind of like using interfaces where I mean, that's statically typed. This is basically like a dynamically typed way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's not you're not using these interfaces, which would be preparers, would be like the interface, and you're implementing its method. Like I guess in a statically typed language, you would have that that method, prepare or whatever, and then everything would have to implement that. But here it's like, well, this is the way you should do it. It's not forcing you, but this is the best practice in this case.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that is similar. So.
Yeah, I think like in the Java world, for example, I think this would be considered an abstract interface.
Yeah, exactly. So ActionScript is like literally exactly like Java.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Yeah, good. Yeah, abstract. Yeah, abstract and interface. I get those mixed up, but they're kind of the same sort of idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, in the Java world, it would be an abstract interface. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah, and then she goes over the difference of statically type and dynamic type languages, and talks about Ruby. You can embrace things like metaprogramming to an extent. You're able to do that with dynamically typed languages, and she gives like the pros and cons against it. And have you guys messed with metaprogramming at all?
I haven't like played with it, but I've looked over it and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I just haven't found a use for it, or I haven't use case for myself to use it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we actually use it in Rails sometimes, right? For example, like associations, that's a form of metaprogramming, isn't it? When you write an association in a model, for example.
Technically, yes. Yeah, there's usually things that happen in Rails. So I asked that question because for usually, like in this book, they usually say kind of avoid metaprogramming, and Sandy Metz hints at it a lot in this book, and for the reason of if you're working with other people in a team and you write something that's specifically different for whatever use case, it makes it hard for the code to be maintainable and easily changed in the future. Because usually when metaprogramming is thrown in the mix, that specific person who wrote it is the expert. And if that person leaves the company or leads the project, then you're stuck to maintaining something that you don't have 100% understanding of, if that makes sense. So,
is that basically what they say is monkey patching?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, monkey patching falls in with the metaprogramming. So, me personally, I've looked into it, similar to you, Colby, but I've never actually used it, just because I know down the road, like most projects that I've done, I haven't really touched after 6 months. And if I go back to a project after 6 months or whatnot, and I have to try to refigure out what I did special, it just doesn't seem like worth the hassle, even if it's going to be a short.
I think the main thing. Yeah, I think the main thing, or not, maybe not the main thing, but like one of the ones that is less destructive to use or more commonly, like maybe a good thing to do it on is stuff like 2S. Like if you're gonna convert some class you created to a string and you want it to come out just weird looking, you want it to be readable. I guess that would be one way to use metaprogramming is to change the 2S.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot easier to swallow too. I mean, a lot of the metaprogramming that happens, I guess, in most of my projects come through gems anyway. So when something like 2S, everybody uses 2S, so it makes it a lot easier to see 2S and know what's happening. But when you start doing like some like interesting, like clever things, like today we had a pull request for someone did a pull request for some code, and he had wrote quite a bit of notes inside his methods because what he was doing was like a special use case, and it needed the notes for sure. But in the pull request, it came up like, why not just abstract all that note into and all that code into a separate method to make the so that way the method actually kind of explains what's happening in a nice little one line rather than having 3 lines of notes. But yeah, still, even doing that, it's some pretty complicated stuff. So we're actually going to be talking about it tomorrow and trying to figure out what's a better way of writing what he needed to get written. So, but I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so is it also considered metaprogramming when they're taking like they're doing like the all the little helper classes when they're adding on functionality, or is it just when you're overriding existing stuff?
Usually when you're overriding like the base use case of Rails or Ruby rather.
Okay.
So when you're doing something that's not already written into the library of Ruby.
Okay. Yeah.
but not something that's like more an addition to, because there's different libraries that you can add to, like for example, even though it's included now, but if you had something like the math library, if you wanted to call .py, that's not technically metaprogramming. It's just adding extras to the library. But if you wanted to change the functionality of every time you call 2s, rather than converting whatever you're calling into a string, but converting it into Chinese, then obviously that's going to be more metaprogramming.
Right. Okay, cool. Just clarifying.
Cool. Yeah, but that chapter was kind of short. I mean, that was basically the gist of it. Being able to write, easily change code is definitely a plus, especially during the long run. So yeah, and again, Jeff, my apologies. I started writing some code locally, and then I started looking in the test, and then I had like questions on the test, and I started thinking, oh man, maybe we should probably discuss this on live together.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
And like let me just switch over to the test. Ooh. All right, cool. So you guys see that?
Yes.
So yeah, so to bring you up to speed, Colby, we're basically doing a project to the idea was to start a project so that way as we're doing the book club, we can start implementing some ideas and I guess getting feedback as we're going through the book and implementing, object-oriented design in Ruby, or practical rather. And yeah, so this project, to give you an idea of what it is, basically it's going to be an IMDb database, and to be able to scrape data from IMDb. And some other feature, one extra feature that we'd have is being able to search to see how close an actor is in relation to Kevin Bacon, so that whole 6 degree of separation.
Right.
So once we actually have the actual API built, we'd have something that the API did. Then obviously it'd have like regular searching and whatnot. But unfortunately, we're like 4 weeks into this, and I haven't been able to contribute any code to it just because of the moving to California and then this other project I'm working on. So luckily, I did find a place though, so I've got more stability in my life now as far as living.
Pretty expensive to live in Cali, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. I am. Let's just say my mortgage is like a quarter of what I'm going to be paying in rent. So it's a big difference. Sorry, my mortgage in Florida is going to be a quarter.
That's what I thought you meant.
I was like, hang on a second, wait.
Owning a house in Florida is definitely much cheaper than renting a place in the Bay Area. So we've got so far the idea was we have movies and we have stars, and stars belong to movies. I think so. Actually, we don't have that yet.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there anyway.
No worries. We can actually get that in a test. So actually, let me go ahead and pull this project and bring it live, and I'll just do live coding rather than just looking at GitHub.
Sounds good.
Let me pull this into terminal. Ooh, let me see. All right, you guys can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where are we? Oh, okay, I got it. I've got these folders nested way too deep. All right.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm just going to pull the latest if I don't have it. Cool. Up to date. Cool. And spec. I'm just going to run the test to see what we have here. It looks like I need to bundle. And spec. Cannot load such files.
Oh, no.
Helper. All right. Go into Vim. So I've got my spec helper. Did you were you able to load these tests? Run these tests?
They were running for me.
Oh.
Hopefully, I included everything. Let's see.
I don't know. I usually have the spec helper one file up. I'm not sure if that makes a difference though. It's been a while since I set up RSpec.
Yeah. Where is it? Is it in models right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it there? I don't know why it's there.
Let me move it up one and see what happens.
That does sound weird.
Yeah, let's see.
Shouldn't have to do RSpec and it, should I? No. Configuration, RSpec core configuration. It's my this
You know what happened, I think, Brian, is the first. Okay, so I made 2 commits, and the first commit had RSpec on it, and then what I did with the second commit was I actually left RSpec out, thinking that you would merge the first one first, and I don't know, but for some reason, I bet you that's what happened, because on my second commit I didn't include the RSpec setup files, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Well, it does say that does exist, huh?
Yeah, I just did the RSpec install, and now I've got failures. Oh, it worked. Yeah, I think it just got the RSpec files just weren't included. Yeah, so we are good.
Because that's why people use Vagrant in bigger projects, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, 0 failures. All right, so I just have a failure, which I think it's because the database is not set up.
Well, and the other thing is, as far as the dates, I'm sure I didn't properly handle the dates. I just threw the date in as a raw date, and I should have probably at least made it a string or something.
Like an object?
Yeah, because
Well, let's get it. We can get it passing now. Let's see what we need to do. Is that a font big enough for you guys?
Yep, I can see it.
Fine.
So we'll just do it like build this live. Get it rolling. So Star creates a valid interest. So
Maybe some team-ups going, Brian.
yeah, I haven't even gotten around to doing. I've done TMUX once, but I was pairing with someone who was more of an expert in it than I was, and I just haven't got into it since.
Well, let me know when you want to learn. I'll help you out.
I will definitely take you up on the offer. Probably soon once I get internet set up in my place and can actually.
Yeah. Get yourself all set up, and then I will help you out.
All right. So yeah, what is the like date? New, and we've got American version of 1946. Doesn't work. Invalid date.
Really?
You do date in Ruby.
Yeah, and I think this is why I did this. This is why I totally.
Oh, you're first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think. Ruby itself uses date, right? And then Rails adds on date time or something like that. Or I guess it's
yeah.
the other way around.
Use like for the time zone stuff.
Yeah, Rails will handle it if they need to add time.
Okay, yeah.
But this should be good.
Okay.
So, birthplace, New York, syntax error. I think I have a comma or something.
Oh, there's a comma after birth date. Your line 8, there should be a comma.
All right, four passing test.
Woot.
So yeah.
Well done.
I think I am the last one in the office. My boss just gave me a wave, so I gotta turn off the lights and everything. Cool. So my question was, what was my question for testing? Actually, okay, so all tests are passing, but I wanted this to know if there was like an easier way to do these, and I think I already have the answer. I put in shoulda matchers.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you talked about that last week, and I went back and looked at those, and that does look like a pretty straightforward way to address that stuff.
So that line actually got overwritten when I installed. So Ruby, Jim, Colby, know about shoulda matchers?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a way to do validations and like simple things in one line rather than stuffing out tons of data and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think.
Okay, yeah, I haven't used it, but I've heard that.
Yeah. So I've got it installed, and I'm just going to throw it on the top of the spec helper. That way it gets included. Make sure nothing blows up. And it did. It cannot load such file. Shoulda matchers. Just double check to make sure I.
Why are you? Oh, I see.
Okay.
Why aren't you in the?
Say what? It has to go in the gem file, but also with certain things in the spec helper, you have to require them in the spec helper. So like shoulda matchers.
Okay, so they run independent.
Yeah, or capybara or anything like that, you'll have to throw in there.
That makes sense.
That's not right. There we go. And usually down the road, like things like shoulda matchers will help with like test speed, because you're not hitting the data as you're doing tests. It's not a huge deal, like in a small project like this, but I think it's worth knowing down the road. So, like some of these validations. Oops. Crap. It's a mini test. Like these validations, like validating the presence that first name's there and stuff like that. You can handle that real easily by doing like validates the presence of and then name. So if I do describe, ooh, you know what? I have to look it up to see how you do it in RSpec. Oh, does it tell you? Oh, it should be fine. I think if you do validates presence of first name, it blows up. Yes, it did. Undefined method. Require Rails. Oh, I'm actually. I don't know if this. It's requiring the Rails helper. I don't know if it's in the. You know what? I'll just do this. I'll just include the line in the test file. Put it in the spec file, but I'm not sure how. If the Rails helper includes shoulda matchers also or not. But
Okay.
undefined method validates present of. Bear with me. I think once I figure this out, it'll be going a little bit faster.
No problem.
That's not what I need.
Our programming gotta floods through all those little things.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the nice things about this new job is pair programming's more of a thing here.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it so much easier as far as transfer of knowledge when you first start. Oh, shoulda Rails.
I just did a pairing with Josh Owens from the Meteor podcast today.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's cool. Yeah. I just asked him. He was like, "Yeah, you can help me with integrating Stripe on this thing." I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Cool.
Oh, what's the podcast called?
The Meteor podcast. It's like the only Meteor podcast out there right now. It's got like 50 episodes though. So he's the guy who built Crater. So he does a lot of the community stuff for Meteor right now.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, he's got like a little Slack room I joined, and I was chatting with him about YouTube stuff because he had questions about YouTube, and then so. Anyways, yeah, just a random side thing.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm trying to do more pairing. That's like it's hard to find people to pair with, but I'm like trying as much as I can to like, let's pair, man, everybody.
Putting this everywhere. Wow. Why is this RSpec? Include the gem in your gem file. Oh, you know what?
Require false. Did you put that part in?
I did not.
Mm.
That could be the reason. Why does RSpec have to be different? No. You know what?
But it would maybe try running bundle again. Did you have shoulda matchers in there? I couldn't see. It looked like you just had shoulda before, but I might have missed it.
Yeah, I had oh, you know, I did have shoulda.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, that could be part of the problem. But I just ran it and it didn't quite do it still. Shoulda Rails. Cannot load file shoulda Rails dependency. Shoulda.
What a pain.
Oh. Well, it's because it's not supposed to be shoulda Rails either. Okay. So
there we go.
And I also have a vagrant A in there too.
Interesting. Hey, what is that all about?
That was I was trying in Vim. If you do capital A, it'll take you to the opposite file or whatever. So right now I'm in the model, and if I want to go back to the test, go to the test. And for whatever reason, I guess I was in insert mode, and I typed it into the actual code rather than where it needed to be.
Is that a plugin for Vim?
It's a Rails Vim. So it's
Rails. Okay, I actually have it. I just didn't realize that. I haven't played with it yet.
Yeah, and it goes with how you have your files nested. So if you have your files nested, it has to be nested the same way in the test to be able to find it.
Okay.
So it helps me. It actually forces me to set up my test properly and the right file structure and everything.
Very nice. Very nice.
Keep adding should have Rails by accident, and it's actually should have matchers. But yeah, if this doesn't work, then we'll just handwrite all these tests, I guess. I don't know.
Validates presence.
Weird.
Now, Brian, what I'm looking at in the API docs is it actually is showing validates presence of in the model.
Yeah, maybe I have it backwards. Let me pull up Dotbot's shouldas.
Okay.
Had a blog post about it. Thought they had a blog post. They're the ones that created it. It meets the context. No. Here we go.
Yeah, did you find it?
Yes. So assert equal that. Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
This. Yeah. That's not really.
They don't want it to be easy. That would.
Yeah, and I did this at work all the time. It's just for some reason I'm just drawing a blank, which I tend to do that a lot. All right. Well, you know what? We don't need to labor the point. I'll just look up this offline and try to figure out what I am doing incorrectly.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure I was able to just do validates the presence of. And that was it.
Here I'm seeing an example where in the actual it method, so it's kind of hard. Let's see. Actually, I'll just paste this.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's my issue. It's got to be wrapped up into an it.
Let's see. That's hard to read on that. But, Oh yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. Put it in an it. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Okay. So you've already got the should there. Okay. Yep. that should work, hopefully. Yay.
Yep. Well, it's a better failure than I was getting before.
Oh, undefined method validate.
I mean, at least it's not just blowing up. At least it's providing
Yeah.
proper error.
Did you well, I'll wait till you go back to the code, but did we actually set anything? So in your it block, you don't have to set anything up. For example, star, do you need to create a star?
No, so the idea is that you don't have to do any factories. It's just literally just checking that column and making sure that it's validated.
Okay.
But yeah, it's closer. I'll figure out the rest of this offline. But
Okay.
I kind of just wanted to walk through the test that we do have, and I mean it's real. I mean everything's really set up real nice for test-driven development. So like being able to say like it should belong to. Let's see, where did I finally find those notes? So we would want stars to belong to movies. So if we wanted to do like a TDD version of this, validate. So it describe person. It should belong to movies. It already knows what a star is and everything like that. So
Okay.
since we're in that object.
So that should fail, and if I belong to,
But yeah, it's possible. Maybe I'm just not including it right. But yeah, this is it's actually the first time I've actually attempted to use it with RSpec, even though it was written for RSpec. I've always used it for mini-test.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what the disconnect is at the moment. But yeah, it should belong to user. It should belong to title. Describe post to. Oh, you know what? Maybe I need to wrap it into describe.
We've got the star, at the top, describe star.
Yeah, we do. Which is I don't know. But let me just take it out.
Okay.
Yep, not really making a difference. All right. Well,
Well, tough one.
it's weird. Should have many posts. Yeah, so this is how we did it in mini tests. We didn't have to. I mean, it just worked. Yeah. But
Guess we should have used mini-test.
yeah, well, there's so many reasons why RSpec is better.
Yeah.
That I've found, especially when you use a Vim.
Uh-huh.
One thing that I love doing is if I do my leader key A.
Run all the tests.
Yeah, all my tests start running.
Yeah.
And if I do, spacebar L, then it'll run the last test. Yeah. So like things like that have been like huge improvement as far as productivity that I couldn't do at my last job because we use Minitest.
Okay.
And there's no plugin. That's something written by by Thoughtbot, and I just had you couldn't really do it with mini tests because nobody written. I guess I could have wrote my own test runner, but yeah, that would took too much time. Guess it's the imposter syndrome speaking, but yeah, that would have been a big feat to try to jump into. Yeah, RSpec Rails shoulda matchers. All right, well, let me just try it without the false now.
You know what? I'm not. Oh yeah, we are. Okay. Never mind. And it doesn't necessarily matter that you're calling shoulda matchers before RSpec Rails, right? In the gem file.
It shouldn't. Shouldn't be a big deal because it would blow up if it needed. If it was dependent on that,
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Okay.
It would have told you that you can't install it because you're just looking for something else. Anyway, yeah. So let's just look at the code and talk about it, and I'll figure out this offline. But yeah, other than that, we've got our object, and I guess probably for the sake of having changeable code, maybe abstracting that into a constant. If there were to be, more than one test that needed this data, could probably do a factory girl, whatever, or you can use a fixture. Fixtures, I've what's the guy's name? He did the RSpec Gem book, and he was all for doing fixtures and sticking with mini test. But I've already found limitations with fixtures, and like with the problems that come with it. I can't remember off the hand what I had issues with, and which project I had issues with because it's been so long since I've worked with a new project. But yeah, there's a reason why people are using RSpec and Factory Girl, and if you plan on using it, my goal is never to work on a project outside of a year because there's just so many headaches upgrading and everything like that. Unless I really like the project, then I'll decide to stop or either stop or continue it. But yeah, there's RSpec. It's nice because the community is behind it and there's more people using it, which you get things like the Vim plugins and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, this test is set up really well to be able to do things. If it's not a shoulda matcher, if I can't get that going, I'll just start writing tests as far as just write them out just as you have them already written out, and this rather than the shoulda matcher is there it would have been able to not have to worry about persisting this data into a factory or a constant, and you can just literally just check that. But if this is abstracted into its own constant or whatnot, then I could just start writing tests in one line three lines, I guess, because I'd have to do an it and an end, but then I could start writing tests that way. But yeah, that's going to take a little more debugging and trying to figure out offline. But as far as, let's look at the other test. Yeah, movies are basically the same thing. You've got the same thing going on where you're creating the object and then expect the movie title to be there, but rather than expecting, this is a case of when you get to chapter 9, she talks about this, but knowing your purpose for your test, rather than trying to expect something that you just pass in here, this would be a perfect time for a validation. So validate the presence of. Right. I don't know how to do it. RSpec is probably a specific method for it, but literally in many tests you can just call validate the presence of title, and it would validate it. And then literally you can just do the assert that the title is valid. So rather than doing all this, you can actually just do expect movie, and I don't know the exact.
The same with shoulda matchers, it's just should validate presence of.
To be valid, yeah, I think that's right.
Something like that, but I think you're right. It's validate the presence or something like that. But yeah, because this object wouldn't save
That's
So
true.
what this is doing is it's calling save on this, and then yeah, if it just fails, then it'll fail. But let's see. I don't think I saved. What was? Oh, syntax error. Syntax. Oh, I don't think this is a valid.
Oh, should, let's see, be valid. To be valid. Let's see, what do you, is it B? Did you have be valid? I forgot what you had.
I have.
Be valid, yeah.
Expect.
To be valid.
What is? Yeah, be valid. Yeah, expect that to be valid. Okay. That to be valid. So do I have something syntactically wrong? Oh. If it passes. All right.
Yeah,
It's
much
calling
cleaner.
the test weird. Yeah, so yeah, the test is a lot shorter. And then you could yeah, that kind of handles all the validations. So then we can just do like this would be essentially being PDD. Expect movie, and this would make it easier if we had like a constant. So we just call movie again. Movie that stars are stars to I don't remember what it is, but have count or not
Look at that.
something like that.
Right.
To be present. Not be present. Yeah. This would be nice to have shoulda matchers because then you just say belongs to. But yeah, should have multiple accounts, which this is gonna fail, but yeah, you get the idea.
Right.
My respect is a little out of date. I had to not only relearn RSpec, but also learn RSpec 3, because last time I used RSpec was RSpec 2.
Oh, right.
That's a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it's not huge, just a couple things like before you used to be able to do like should rather than expect. So they really are honing into the expect thing, or I think RSpec 2 they wanted expect, but you could still do should, and then I think they went a different way, like they went all expects. But yeah, that would I was hoping to get more tests written, but we had a lot of hiccups on the shouldas, and for the sake of the video, it's kind of getting long too. So, but yeah, again, I am hoping to be able to add more code to the this project now that I kind of have a place to live. I'm just waiting on internet at this moment.
Okay.
And then I'm about to wrap up this other project. I'm doing an Ember app. Should be my first Ember app. And
fun.
Nice.
You like it?
Yeah, I'm really liking Ember. It's similar to Meteor. It's got a lot of what do you call them? Conventions to actually build apps.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard Ember's more with Ruby thinking. So, or Rails.
yeah, it's got a lot of Ruby thinking, but it's a lot different from Ruby. But yeah. it's nice. I mean, it's got its quirks like every other framework, but it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Good times. But see ya. Oh, sorry, I'm talking to you guys. Someone's waving goodbye to me.
That's cool.
Yeah. With that being said, I've gotta catch a train, and I guess trains run pretty late, and I also have to record a podcast tonight too. So I am gonna have to hang up.
Don't
Yeah.
It was good. It was
So
good talk.
yeah, awesome. I